episode of IDS Podcast, and I am here today with Joe, who was with me in season 1, I believe. I don't think season 2, season 1, I believe. And we were talking about your business then, Sight and Sounds, but here we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little different avenue, a little bit more about IDS itself and national IDS. But Joe, thanks for coming in. I know it's been hectic for you the last couple of weeks, so I appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. I really love that. I love everything you're doing with this podcast.
All right, thank you. So let's take it back a little bit. I mean, we can say briefly for 30 seconds, but I don't want this episode is not going to be about what you do. But you can I guess just for a quick 30 seconds, just if people are interested and know your background, what you actually do for a living, and how what you do and your business serves the design community.
Sure. So Sights and Sounds is a home integration business. My dad used to do satellite systems, master antenna systems way back when in the 70s, and I used to climb roofs with him and do things like that. But I pretty much started this business in 1991. Dad was in 1977, so that's a long time ago. And what we do is we offer complete smart home services to the end user, the consumer, or through the design build community. And we are in our new South Florida office now, and we service Long Island, South Florida, and pretty much anywhere in the country. And that's pretty much what I have to tell you about Sights and Sounds.
Nice. And now I guess you're third generation technically now. So
technically I'm second generation, and Joey would be third generation. Yeah. Joey.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's go back to IDS now, because that's the bulk of this episode. How did you first? And I guess we'll talk about Long Island chapter first, and then we'll get into national, just so people understand your history and your involvement. But how did you first get into or get involved with IDS from the beginning?
So Nancy Ganzekaufer, who many people know, who's now Nancy Quinn. At the time, she was
she was on an episode also, I think season 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. I believe she was either the president or the vice president, and she offered me to come to a meeting because we were doing some work in her house. And I went to a couple of meetings, and after a couple of meetings, she said, you'd make a great treasurer. And I said, who, me? And became treasurer. I served treasurer a couple of terms, and then made my way through the board, and eventually president of Long Island chapter.
Okay, yeah. When I came in, which I guess is about 5-6 years ago, you were treasurer. You were president. I'm sorry, and it was you had some great leadership, and I didn't know what I was expecting or what I was looking for, and you were very hospitable, and you brought me in with open arms. So I do thank you for that, because it's been a fun ride the last few years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, and it's not a compare or contrast, but more so, and how has it evolved from when you first got involved till when you became president to where we are now?
So IDS has evolved tremendously on so many levels. When I first came to IDS, it was on the national level, it was a little bit of a mess, a little bit of very unorganized, and very difficult on the local chapters to keep track of members and how membership worked. We had to bill separately from national, and the members were confused. It was quite an interesting time. And Nancy and I were pretty vocal about it to get things changed. And eventually Jenny Kano came in as the executive director, and that's when things really started to change at IDS. And it's been growing ever since that, and it continues to evolve year after year.
Yeah, what even more specifically on a local level, besides chapter growth, which I've seen myself just over the last few years, but programming and events and stuff like that, how has that evolved on a local level?
Well, it's definitely changed in many regards. COVID definitely changed a lot of things, but we continue to try to raise the bar, and we continue to try to do more and more bigger and better local events. And we have a good leadership team right now. We have a good transition, but we're always looking for the next leaders. So it's always important to concentrate on succession and people who want to step up and be a part of the leadership group. I encourage them to do so, because not only do you give when you're with IDS, but you also get a lot too. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from your peers. You learn a lot from your vendor members, and you learn about running an organization. So as a whole, I think it's an amazing opportunity for any designer or vendor member. I mean, look at you. You came in as a member, as a photographer, and now you're doing this IDS podcast for the third year. You stepped it up and you saw an opportunity, and I think you're doing a fantastic job with it.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's funny. Earlier this season, we spoke to Sal. I think he's one of the first episodes or second or third episodes that are going to release this season. We spoke about what he's doing with East End and the school and all that stuff, but he was also telling me the history because he was, I think, the second president. He was one of the first, second or third presidents. I don't remember specifically what he said, and he said the difference and the way the chapter has evolved since he started with it so many years ago, when it was, and he told me the story of how it got started, but it was just a few of them just switching off meetings at the same location every month to what it is now. It's incredible, where we have so many different showrooms who want to get involved, want to host meetings, and every meeting I go to, and unfortunately I don't make every single one, but I try to make at least half to 3/4 of them a year. I see new faces at every single meeting, so it's pretty incredible.
It is, and I think it is as an organization. I think you have to continue to evolve and change and make it fresh and make it new and make it different. There's a lot of trade organizations out there, and IDS I think is very unique in its own right, as every one of them is. But I really love the collaboration amongst the members. I love the giving back to the community, and I love the way it continues to evolve. Fresh leadership comes in, fresh ideas, and it just continues to evolve and get better.
Yeah, and it sounds weird because like I'm part of several other organizations as well, but IDS sort of feels more family oriented. And I don't know if that's the right word for it. I don't know if you feel the same, but you get you walk in and you get this feeling that you're just, every month you see some cousins that you haven't seen in a long time and you just give each other hugs. Whereas some of the other organizations, it feels, and this is not a bad thing either way, but it feels more professional, if that's the right word. But no, I shouldn't say professional, more corporate, if that's the right word.
I think corporate's better.
Yeah. I didn't mean to say not professional. I meant corporate. Whereas this feels more of a family vibe when you walk in and everyone kind of knows each other. I don't know.
Well, with IDS, I mean, I think a lot of us become friends. I've made many friendships through IDS, and I think, at first you talk about your peers and people you work with, and then before you know it, you work in such a close way together on so many different, near and dear projects that you actually do become friends. And I think that's why when we see each other at a monthly meeting, we're excited to see each other, happy to see each other, more than just, hello, how you doing? It's more of it's a hug and an embrace and a little bit of a happier time to see each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm curious what your thoughts are before, and now I'm going to ask you to compare. Before you got involved with IDS, I mean, were you really involved in the design community before IDS, or was just occasional clients here or there?
It was more occasional clients here and there. I'm definitely much more involved, and I don't like to say known, but I guess people know of me and I know of them more than it just being another contact in the forgive the old term, in the Rolodex. But
yeah.
It's more about seeing people and they know me, I know them, and it's a familiarity where before I was involved with IDS, I didn't have that.
So then I'm going to ask you to compare. What did not even your involvement, running the chapter, but also just your involvement in general, teach you about the local design community that you may or may not have even realized or thought of until you got involved in it?
So I think, like a lot of people, they think of interior designers as just people who decorate, like they used to be referred to as decorators. And I know we don't call them interior decorators unless that's what they are. But most interior designers are so much more than that. they're project managers, they design the space, they're leaders, they're on the construction site, they put their boots on. It's so much more than just decorating. That's why I never liked the term interior decorator. Unless all you do is decorate, then that's what you are. But an interior designer is so much more. And I'm always amazed at going on a project with a designer I haven't worked with before and seeing them take charge with the contractor, with the electrician, with the plumber, and telling them things that you wouldn't expect from an interior designer. But that's the way the world has become. Interior designers are much more fluent in the construction aspect of the work.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. And, I have a similar sentiment because before I got heavily involved with IDS, my work, I feel like with interior designers was pretty much just transactional, if that makes sense. It was hire me for a shoot, I deliver you photos, you pay your invoice, and we move on until the next shoot. Where now it's, like you said, they're so much more, and they're so knowledgeable in different aspects of things, where if I have a question about something design-wise, which might affect one shoot, I can go and call one of my designer clients or friends from IDS and say, hey, just, I need some help here. I'm working on a shoot for this X client. I need some advice. You know what I mean? So it's you're right. It's just so much more, and a whole different, I guess your eyes are opened up to a whole different aspect of what they do when you're more heavily involved in their day to day and you see them more frequently, etc. So.
Without a doubt. And not all of them are. Some of them are they're just there for the design of the room and the looks of the room. And then others are more of a take charge kind of designer. And it's great working with all these different types because everybody has their own way of working. It's fantastic.
Okay, so before we deep dive into national and what's going on there, I know you did mention, or I mentioned, or we've talked about it, that you're in third generation now, and now Joey's now involved. Your son Joey, who is also on an episode this season. Later on, we spoke to him about Swatch coming up because he's on the committee there, but he's also the treasurer. So literally following in your footsteps directly. So. What's it like watching your next generation step into IDS?
It's pretty remarkable. When he first came on board, I told him I'd really like him to get involved with IDS, and he wasn't too sure. And he did, and he really does a fantastic job, and he likes it. He loves the people, and he does really well with it too. But he does get a lot of pressure from me from work too. So it's becoming a difficult balance for him because I am putting some pressure on him on the sights and sound side of things, that it makes it hard for, doing all the things that need to be done after hours for IDS. So I know I put him in a difficult position. My son Anthony, who is an installer, and he's great. He really doesn't interact with IDS that much, although he'll be at the Swatched event to support his brother and to support IDS and Sights and Sounds. But I'm not too sure if he's the IDS type yet. We'll find out as time goes on.
I hear. I mean, I was going to ask you if it was something that you sort of nudged him into, or he kind of went on his own. But it sounds like you kind of nudged him in there and kind of threw him in the middle of things. But there is something special to be said about building an organization that your own kid wants to be a part of. And, I wonder if that changes how you think about what you're doing on a national level.
Well, he looks to me for help, and I always try to be there to support him, even if he doesn't know he needs it. Sometimes he gets a little stressed out about what he's doing as the treasurer, and also, running Swatch, which is such a big event for IDS Long Island. So it's a lot for him, but he takes it on, and he does a fantastic job with it. And I think he'll admit that he's learned a lot from it. He's learned how to interact with other designers and other people. And I see it in his work at Sights and Sounds, which that's really, I think, the part I love the most, because I could see what he learns in IDS and he brings it to Sights and Sounds, and vice versa. What he learns at Sights and Sounds, he brings into IDS, and it's a great balance for him, and I'm very proud of what he does.
All right, awesome. Okay, so back to you and National. So what's the backstory? How do you go from president of a local chapter to now sitting on the national board?
Well, it was quite an honor when they asked me, because I wasn't expecting it, and they asked me to be a part of the national board. And at the time, I was very, very involved with running Long Island as president. And I was also growing my business at the same time. And when I was first asked, I had to respectfully decline. I just knew that I couldn't put the amount of time needed into Long Island as well as national at the same time and still try to keep my business running smoothly. So
this was when you were still president.
This is when I was still president of Long Island. So when I was coming off of president, they came back to me again and asked me, and I was thrilled that they did. And that's when I took it on, and I was being past president at the time for Long Island. I was able to relinquish a lot of my roles and duties, and I was able to then focus on the national side of things. So when I first went on the executive committee for the national board, it was a member at large, they call it. And it's kind of like you're the swing guy, you're kind of like if they need the last vote, you're kind of feeling, you're tipping your toes in the water and kind of feeling if this is right for you, and they're trying to see if you're right for them. And I really, really enjoyed it. And to find out how many more moving parts go behind running national compared to Long Island, it was pretty amazing to see. And it made me inspired to want to be a part of it.
That's interesting. I mean, does your experience running Long Island give you a specific perspective in that room? I mean, Long Island's, I don't know where it compares to number-wise to other chapters. I know we have a fairly big chapter, but what I do know for sure is that we're one of the most innovative chapters, and a lot of the programs that IDS does do were started here by us, including Swatchton, among others. And I'm assuming, or I would imagine that you were heavily part of that. So running the Long Island chapter for a while and that experience, does it give you a different perspective when you're on the national board?
It does. And, what's very unique about being on the national board is we have members from other chapters as well that were either currently in leadership or prior leadership. And it's often amazing when, IDS has the same core values, but it's often amazing when we talk about, well, we could never do this in our chapter. And then somebody else says, this is one of our most important things we do in our chapter. And it really lets you see the diversification amongst interior designers, people that are affiliated with the interior design community, and throughout the entire country. So you have to have a good balance to understand other markets, because the more you understand that not everything is the same as it is in your market, the better of a leader you can be on the national level, which is I think very important.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Let's get into the heart of it, and we'll talk about the conference in a second, but what is national? What are the big priorities for this year? What's national focused on, obviously, besides the conference, which we'll talk about in a minute?
Well, we always try to grow our membership. That's always the number one goal of our organization, is to continue membership growth. And then I think we did a great job. We have what they call now a chapter task force. And the chapter task force is responsible for making sure there are policies in place and everybody's doing things the same way, or at least similar. And then when there is a problem, or if something arises and nobody knows how to handle it, they could refer to the chapter handbook. They could call, they could reach out. And I think the chapter task force has been one of the great additions to some of the things that we do on the national level. I'm not even directly a part of that. It's not one of my duties, but knowing and seeing and discussing on the calls what's being done with that. I think it was needed for a long time, and it's a great thing.
Okay, so back to the conference. Conference is happening in September in Las Vegas, so that's pretty exciting. Go big or go home, I guess. So for people that have never been there, what should they expect at the conference? And is there anything unique that you guys are planning in this one versus some previous conferences for people who have previously attended? Besides being in Las Vegas, which is pretty amazing
Cool
for some people, yeah.
So
I'm not a Vegas fan personally, but I go there many times a year for work, so it's kind of run its course already. So
right. So conference is near and dear to me. I years ago I was on the conference committee, and I was very involved with planning conference, to which then I eventually became the head of the conference committee, which I still serve as. And I love that, because I love making sure that we're listening to our members of where they would like conference to go. We typically try to alternate. So we alternate West Coast, East Coast, and try to sprinkle in some of the middle of the country at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we've done New York City. Now we're doing Vegas. We've done New Mexico. We've done New Orleans, so we've done a lot of really cool places. And it's what the designers want. So I think that's one of the big things about conferences. You're getting to visit a city. We usually sprinkle in some of the education, some of the details and history of the city, especially during the leadership part of the conference, which if you are a part of leadership, I definitely encourage you to attend, because you learn so much from other chapter leaders. It's invaluable. And then, of course, there's the education part of conference, which is really what conference is about. We keep seeming to get better and better every year with the education and the offerings and the CEUs that we offer. And, we get a lot of positive feedback from that. So those are two of the big things, visiting different cities, and then, of course, the education. There's so much more to it. There's networking. There's, of course, the Doty Awards, which is always the highlight of every conference.
That's like a gala, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, black tie affair. It's a gala, and all the awards, and you see people on social media getting their awards. We have a great MC every year, and it's a full sit down dinner. It's a fantastic event.
That's very exciting. IDS has also you've been pushing some consumer tools, the IDS List, where I guess pretty much you connect homeowners to designers. Where's the IDS List headed, and how does it help a designer's business? Because, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a free tool. And if you're a member, and I would imagine there's a significant amount of people that probably don't even take advantage of it.
It's true. It's a great tool. We market the IDS List to homeowners. So if people are looking for an interior designer and they want an IDS member, the IDS List is where we point them. And it is a free service for our members. So we encourage you to use it and make best of it, because all you have to do is put a couple of pictures up there, say a few things about you and your company and what you do. And it's a great tool for your membership. One of the big things, I know you're touching on the IDS List, but we have so many member benefits that people just don't even realize. And sometimes they say, "Oh, I didn't even realize you had that." Mm-hmm. I encourage you to really look at the website and see all the things that we do offer, because there's so much.
What about education? I mean, I know you guys, I know on a local level, there's a lot of programming, and I would imagine that's localized in different areas and different chapters, but what about education? And I know you have, like on the conference, you have different educational programs, but is there any other things you guys do on a national level from an education standpoint? I know I get emails occasionally, and most of the time, to be fully transparent, a lot of it doesn't pertain to me. I'm not a designer, and that's totally understandable. But whether it's webinars and stuff like that, as far as educational programming for designer members.
Yes, well, we have our IDS virtual chapter, which is so great for people who want to be a part of the IDS family but don't have a local chapter available to them. So our virtual chapter does a fantastic job at education, webinars, and things of that nature, just to help people realize some of the things that are available to them. The education is priceless to me. I mean, it's something required, but it's also something that people like to take because they learn from it. So yeah, the in person we have for local, we have our local education events. We always try to tie chapter meetings with some sort of education about the vendor that's hosting. And then we have it nationally when we're in person at our conference, and then throughout the year through virtual. So education is a big part of IDS.
Sure. And I know most of the programming, the educational programming and that stuff is geared towards designers, and that's obviously completely understandable. But what about vendor or industry partners and programming for those type of people? You know, someone like you or someone like me who we're not designers, but we offer services for designers.
Well, it helps us better. For me, it helps me better understand what the designer needs to know. So I enjoy taking some of these courses just because I like to know what they need to know. It can only help you. Last year at conference, one of our most well-received educational events of all time was Elizabeth Lord-Levitt did a thing on construction management. And we're actually going to have a part 2 at this year's conference. And it's a fantastic, she's teaching designers some basic construction management, load-bearing walls, and she's not going to get into the specifics and the pounds per square inch per se.
The engineering stuff, yeah.
She gets into enough that the interior designer should know, and this way they are educated when they're talking to the builder and the contractor. And it's absolutely fantastic from a vendor's perspective, because that's not a class I would typically take, but I take it because I'm a part of IDS and I actually learn from it.
Yeah. I have an idea. It just came to me now, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but similarly to the IDS list, why not have a vendor and industry partner list that's available to all the designers nationally?
So we recently changed our database and website, and we now have a membership listing of members throughout the country, and we're ever evolving this database. Now, as you can imagine, it was a huge undertaking to get this new database and website up and running, and we're continuing to strive to improve it, and we're going to have some pretty cool things coming out within that, and it's going to be easy that right from your phone, you can open up your phone, and if you're a designer in Denver and you want to deal with an integrator in New York, you could find me. So it's going to be a great local resource for you to be able to find vendors, vendor members, and then it's also going to be on the national level as well. So if you need to reach out to other markets, we have a lot of vendor members that are national sponsors, and they're available to support anybody in any of our local chapters and beyond. So it's an important resource that we're building, and you'll see more to come.
Yeah, no, that definitely is. And I know that over the last, year or so, there's been significant changes to the website, which I think all for the better, obviously. But before the shift to the new website, that's what I felt as a industry partner was most lacking, was there was no real easy way for, let's say, designers, and I'll use myself as an example, for designers to see, do we have a photographer that I can call locally and that's a member that can come out and shoot a project for me. And, obviously things have changed for the better with the website. And like you said, it's only going to get better. So I'm definitely excited about that. Is there anything, as we sort of close out about National, is there anything that you can tell me that's happening or that the board's working on over the next year? Anything that's in the plans and the cards?
Well, some of the things that I've told you already are things that we're working pretty aggressively on, and you'll start to see those changes. But there are some things that we're working on that we can't talk about because they're kind of behind the scenes, and until we develop them a little bit further, then we always have surprises coming.
Okay, so not getting anything out of you.
Yeah, I can only say so much, Brian.
I hear. Okay, so for a current Long Island member or somebody who's looking to join the local chapter, why? I'm just going to say this straight out, even though I don't mean it to sound like this. Why should they care what National is doing?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like everything else in the world, right? It's probably a term that people don't like to use, but everything in the world is kind of a pyramid, right? Everything starts at the top and then trickles down, and that's kind of how IDS is as an organization. We start at the top nationally, and then we trickle down to some of our larger chapters stand out more, but really across the board, National is on top, and then across the board we treat every chapter the same, and we try to encourage each and every chapter to do new things, as well as, take some advice from other chapters that have done things successfully and learn from other chapters that have done things maybe not so successfully. And together you take both the successes and the things that maybe didn't work as good, and then you create your own event. So we actually encourage, by doing that, I think we're encouraging the creativity that a lot of IDS members have.
Yeah, and I think even if people are joining their local chapter, it's important for them to know and understand that every local chapter is getting support from National. So it's not like you're here running things on your own and just trying to figure it out. National is there supporting the local chapters with help with everything from educational programs to events to meetings to all that stuff. So they are there. If they're members locally who are interested in getting involved on a national level, I mean, first of all, would you suggest that to them, or what is the best way to even consider or think about doing that?
So on the national side, we have our executive committee, just like in a local chapter. So the executive committee is the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, member at large. And then we go beyond that to our board. And our board is all the heads of all the different things that we have. And sometimes it's just member at large board members. But we have board meetings where we discuss all of the different things that are happening, both on a national level and sometimes at a local level for a particular chapter. So you wouldn't just jump right into the executive committee, but I would encourage you to volunteer to be on the conference committee, maybe the chapter task force, and there's many other committees that you could be a part of on the national level. And then as you evolve and, it's recognized how good of a leader you can be, then perhaps you're going to be asked to be on the executive committee, or maybe head one of the other committees, or you could put your hat in the ring. We do a call for leaders every year, and you fill out a form, and you're considered for the national board or possibly even the executive committee.
Sure. So to close it out, I would love to hear your thoughts. What are you most excited about over the rest of the year, I guess, for IDS, besides the conference, obviously?
Well, I think, the summer's usually a little bit quiet, but we end the summer with the big bang of the conference. And we continue to grow nationally as well as locally, and we continue to open new chapters. We have a very high bar. We try to open 2 to 4 new chapters every year. And that's a very aggressive and a lot of work to be done in order for that to happen. Our big thing and our next big thing, because the conference is only, I think it's 63 days away from today. Not that I'm counting, but maybe I am. So it's very exciting. I look forward to seeing friends throughout the country that I haven't seen for a while. And we have such a great lineup of material this year. So, being at the Bellagio, it's going to be a fantastic event. And it's going to be a very classy, Doty Awards ceremony as well. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't already registered, do it. We have a great room rate, and you can bunk with somebody else if you like, and it's a lot of people team up and share rooms, and to keep the costs down for both the chapter. Sometimes when you're in chapter, if you're in a rich enough chapter, the chapter could share some of the expenses of the board going to the national conference. So it all depends on the individual chapters and how much money they've raised and how much money they have in their bank account of how much they could support people going to conference. But I certainly encourage you to do it. If you haven't been, you're missing out. And if you've been, you know what you've seen, and it gets better every year.
Yeah, and I think in general, for people who are not yet members, this is a good time to join. I feel like the fall is an exciting time. I know specifically on the Long Island end of things, we have the conference coming up, then Swatch is coming up this year, and then the holiday parties soon after that. So there's a lot of fun events that are going on that are really unique and different than just your typical monthly meetings. So
yes,
it's an exciting time, the fall, to be joining. Okay, so as we close out, give me two things. Number one, if someone's interested in reaching out to you specifically about Sights and Sounds, how do they reach out to you? And then if someone's interested in IDS, I guess both on a local or national level, what are the best ways for them to get information?
So you could find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You could easily search Sights and Sounds and find us. Our website is also very easy, hometheater.biz, B-I-Z. So
I have to
that's
say,
easy.
I love your newfound social media. I don't even know what the best way to call it is, but now all I do is see you and Joey just all the time having these ridiculous, fun debates on social media. But it's great. It's popping up all the time. So
thank you. We are having a good time with it, and I can't take credit for it. That was Joey's idea, and Joey ran with that, and he's doing a fantastic job managing that.
Cool. And then on an IDS standpoint, if people want information locally and nationally, what's the best way for them to either get info or to reach out to somebody to get info?
Yeah, so interiordesignSociety.org. That's the website that could pretty much guide you in any direction. And there's a lot of information on there that'll help you in order to become a member. But there's also information there on how to contact some of the staff and discuss it. And you could even reach out to me if you were interested in becoming a member and you have some questions. I may be a little biased, but I've been members of other organizations. And to me, IDS is by far and away my favorite.
No, for sure. And if people are still even on the fence, I would say just even, for instance, follow IDS Long Island on Instagram or social, just to kind of see what's going on. And you can see all the different events. You can see clips from this podcast. You can see events coming up, photos from meetings, all the different stuff. So it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of info out there for you to look at before you even consider moving forward. So
yeah, and if you're not a member, you can come to up to 2 chapter meetings before you need to become a member. So you could experience it and see what it's like and see what all the people are like. It's always going to be welcoming. If I see somebody new at a chapter meeting that I haven't seen before, I try to always go up to them and introduce myself and try to have a good conversation with them.
Okay, yeah, and that's great. There's no reason at that point not to even try a meeting. If it's not going to cost you anything, there's nothing to lose there. All right, so Joe, thank you for your time. I know you're busy. I know you're down in Florida now and trying to get some work done. But I want to thank you for giving me some time, and hopefully after the summer at the next meeting, I will bump into you.
Very good, Brian. Thank you so much for everything you do for IDS, and fantastic. I love looking at all your photography. I follow Brian on social media. He does a fantastic job. So if you need a photographer, call Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for the plug. All right. Take care.
Thank you.